Class C motorhomes. What are they? And why would you own one? Hey YouTubers, in the ever-changing RV world, there are numerous configurations that can be used for mobile recreational enjoyment. There's campers, there's trailers, there's vans, there's motorhomes, and they're all good options. So today we're going to look at Class C motorhomes. What is a Class C and why would someone choose a Class C motorhome? Hi, this is Bruce from Homes and Life, and welcome back to another video in our Homes on Wheels series. Thank you again to our subscribers and welcome to you new subscribers. And for the rest of you, please remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. So when it comes to motorhomes, you would think that it would be easy to choose which is the best type, but they each have their own positive points. So let's begin by defining a Class C motorhome. When a Class C motorhome leaves the factory, that's the automotive factory, it is a cab on a chassis. So there's the cab, and then there's the frame and the rear wheels. This cab is most often the cab that you would see on the front of a van, although occasionally you will see a pickup cab and chassis. There will always be an opening on the rear of the cab to enable movement from the cab back into the RV section. And the RV section will be built by the RV manufacturer. The cab and chassis will be a minimum 1-ton chassis. That would be like an E350 or 3500 series, that kind of thing, or maybe even heavier. With the increasing sizes and options on a Class C, more manufacturers are opting for a bit heavier chassis. Some manufacturers are even building on a 3 or a 5-ton truck chassis and using the truck cab. This would be called a Super C motorhome, and they usually end up being pretty deluxe. As with Class A and Class B motorhomes, there are options for gas or diesel engines. The RV section of a Class C motorhome is built from the frame up and is usually fairly boxy. So this makes the building of the RV section quite straightforward, as the structure has very few rounded edges. But you'll notice one feature of a Class C motorhome is the way that the manufacturers will utilize the area out over the cab. Most commonly, they will use this area to make an extra sleeping area, so it kind of juts out over the cab and then comes back. It's very functional, but not very streamlined, so it tends to lower the fuel economy a bit. But because of that extra sleeping area in the overhead bunk, it's not uncommon to see a Class C motorhome that will sleep 6 to 8 people. Some RV manufacturers will decide they want more of a streamlined look, so that extension over the cab is tapered back and becomes much more aerodynamic, and it eliminates some of the blind spots from above. You do lose that sleeping area, but on the interior, that space that's under the streamlined area, it's sometimes used as storage or maybe even for an entertainment center. Now there does seem to be some confusion about this style of Class C when you've got that tapered back area. Some people incorrectly would call that a B+ motorhome, and that's not quite correct. If you can see that that motorhome is built onto a cab and a chassis, then it's a Class C motorhome. A Class B motorhome is built from a complete van shell. We've got more on that in a future video. So why would someone want a Class C motorhome? One of those reasons is safety. Did you know what they say is the biggest factor in safety on the road? It is the nut behind the wheel. The vast majority of accidents could be avoided by defensive driving, which includes speed, and situational awareness. If, however, you have the misfortune of being in an accident, a Class C motorhome has a number of safety features. All of the safety features of the van are still in place. So in that van nose is the airbags. They're still there. By the way, those airbags are not mandatory on a Class A motorhome. And in addition, having the engine and the axle out in front of you creates a crumple zone to help protect the driver and passenger from frontal impact. And also there's usually 1 or 2 sets of seat belts available in the back for passengers as well. And it may seem like a small thing, but if the windshield gets cracked and chipped, creating a driving hazard because of reduced visibility, the Class C motorhome uses a standard windshield. It's easily available and not too expensive. And then the doors. Class C motorhome will have 2 front doors, a driver and a passenger. Both of them have doors. That can be very convenient for the ease of entry and exit. It's much easier to go out a door than to climb up and over an engine doghouse and exit down the side door that's halfway down the motorhome. Another plus for a Class C motorhome is the maintenance and repairs. With the Class C nose being up front, maintenance and repairs are fairly straightforward as it's relatively simple to access the mechanical area. In addition, a front engine on a Class C will cool easier than an enclosed rear engine on a Class A motorhome. Then there's the drivability. Because the driving area is basically the same as the nose of one of those vans that you see every day, the Class C is quite easy to drive. Everything's conveniently at your fingertips, and the side mirrors are designed to give maximum visibility down the side of the unit. So this in turn helps avoid blind spots, and combined with a backup camera, makes it simple to back into a camping site. And the smaller the unit, the more maneuverable they are. You'll also find there's more campsites available that can accommodate a Class C than the larger Class A motorhomes. Having owned both a Class C and a travel trailer, we have found that it was much quicker and easier to set up the Class C than the travel trailer. So are there any cons to owning a Class C motorhome? Well, you can find cons about pretty much everything if you look hard, but here's a few that you may want to take into consideration on a Class C motorhome. Once you've set up camp, you have no vehicle to do day trips with, unless you're towing a vehicle behind your motorhome. Also, these Class C motorhomes, they're lower, which is good for aerodynamics, but it puts them closer to the ground than a trailer. So if you're in an area where the road's a little bit rough, that could be a bit of a challenge. Then there's the price. Often a Class C motorhome will cost more than a truck and trailer combination, especially if you add a tow vehicle behind that motorhome. In some Class C motorhomes, storage can be an issue. Remember, the more people you carry in the motorhome, the more belongings you're going to need to carry. And fuel economy is not going to be great whether it's a Class C or a Class A. You know, a Class B or a truck and trailer may get you a bit better fuel economy. The other thing with a Class C motorhome is when you're not using it, it sits. Sitting is not necessarily a good thing for the engine and the drivetrain. It can deteriorate if it sits too long without being used. But overall, I would have to say that a Class C motorhome gives good bang for the buck. They maximize the sleeping areas, they're comfortable to drive, and they're relatively safe. There's also a wide variety available in rental fleets. So if you're not sure that a Class C motorhome is for you, try renting one for a trip and see how you like it. Well, I hope this video has helped you in understanding about Class C motorhomes. If you've enjoyed it, please click the like or the subscribe and the bell button down below, and then you'll be alerted when the next video is live. Remember, life is an adventure, and I'll talk to you again soon.